In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to use content marketing to get more customers and clients, make more sales, and grow your business. These are the exact same content marketing strategies that I'm using right now in my own business, as well as I'm advising my clients and my students, and they'll work whether you're a brand new startup all the way up to a billion-dollar empire. So if this is the time that you finally decided to master your content marketing and leverage this truly powerful and profitable strategy in your business, then you're going to absolutely love this practical and actionable and profitable episode. So with all that said, let me show you how it's done. So the very first thing that I need to cover here is this sort of age-old battle between quality and quantity. And by age-old, I mean like just a few years old. Because honestly, many years ago, as in 5 or 10 maybe even, well, the algorithms and people in general prized quantity over all else. They simply just wanted more stuff. But then sure enough, as people evolved and their tastes changed, well, they started to want higher quality stuff. And then we've got to the point where we're at today, which is where people and the algorithms in general, they don't just want more and they don't just want higher quality, they want both. Meaning more higher quality stuff. Now, as a content creator, that puts you in a bit of a tricky situation. I mean, there's always going to be some kind of a balance, some kind of a sacrifice required for how good you're going to be able to make something or how much of something you're going to be able to make. But finding kind of that delicate balance or that fine line between the two, that's the sweet spot. On the bright side, content creation, content marketing in general, is kind of like a muscle that you can build up and strengthen and develop over time. You see, while I don't remember the very first blog post that I ever wrote, I certainly remember my first years by starting to create blogging content, and looking back, it wasn't very good. And the same thing goes for my first podcast episode, and my first YouTube video, and my first social media post, and my first pretty much anything. This is why, whether your end goal is on quantity or on quality, or ideally that mythical combination of both, you've really just got to get started and start producing things. There's a great expression that I love, which is that quality comes from quantity. And not only is this true because you're going to get better and more skilled and more experienced over time, but also because you, as the content creator, well, you don't necessarily get to be the judge of what's good content or not. That's for your audience to decide. And the only way you're ever going to know is if you actually create something and get it out there to the world. So my recommendation here for the best place to start is to kind of do a bit of a self-awareness exercise and really ask yourself, well, not only what kind of content you could create, but also what kind of content do you enjoy creating, and where does that overlap with what kind of content the market wants you to create. It's kind of like a Venn diagram overlapping circles thing, with you've got stuff that you're good at, stuff that you want to talk about, and stuff that the market wants to hear about. That middle section right there, well, that's the sweet spot. Of course, if you're going to be spending any significant amount of time and money and energy into creating higher quality content, well then it only makes sense to try to get the maximum bang for your content marketing buck. And this means using some kind of repurposing or syndicating or sharing strategy. See, here's the deal. One of the big separators between those that are kind of just dabbling and playing around with content marketing and those that are actually using it to create profitable and wildly successful marketing campaigns that actually grows their business is just this. The pros don't only know how to create good content, but also how to leverage it and how to splice and dice and share it across a number of different platforms to really get the maximum value out of it. So next, let me walk you through my exact content repurposing strategy, something I call the content multiplier formula, and the 3 parts that it's made up of, known as pillar, post, and piece. The whole basis and the whole foundation of the content multiplier formula all starts by first choosing your primary platform and then creating a piece of pillar content on it. Let me explain what that means. Your primary platform is you or your business's main publishing platform. If you're into text content, well, this could be your blog on your website. If you're into audio content, well, this is probably going to be your podcast. And if you happen to be into video content, well, this is probably and definitely should be YouTube. Essentially, it's the main place, the main focus for all of your content marketing and the core piece of content that you create and where you put most of your energy and your effort and your attention. So once you've established what your primary platform is, well, then next you've got to decide on what your piece of pillar content is going to be. Again, if we're using text-based content on your blog, well then a long-form blog post would be your main piece of pillar content. If you're going the audio route, well then your podcast episode could be your pillar content for your audio. And if you're going the video route, well then of course your YouTube video is going to be that piece of pillar content that we're going to create everything else from. Now this next part's important, so come in close. Closer. Closer. It's too close. All right, so the very first stage and the most important part, and really making sure that you're setting yourself up for success with the content multiplier formula, comes to making sure that you're building all of this on a solid foundation. And what that means is really making sure that you've got a solid piece of pillar content that you can build on and essentially splice and dice and rip apart and share and all the things we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, the way to do this is to create that content with the following structure in mind. First, you need to start with a very clear and very easy to understand headline or title. That's part one. Then you need to add some kind of an enticing introduction, that hook, that gotcha, that capturing phrase that gets them in and holds their attention and gets them to read the next line. That's part two. Then you'll follow that with the main body of the content. This is the bulk of where you're going to tell your story or provide your information, and ideally you want to arrange this in 3 or 5 or maybe even 7 parts or subparts. That's part 3. Then just wrap it up with a conclusion and ideally include a CTA or call to action that guides and directs people to whatever the next step is. And that's part 4. Now, the beauty of structuring and arranging your pillar piece of content like this, whether we're talking about a blog post or a video or a podcast or whatever, is that it makes the next stage almost effortless and kind of automatic. So here's what this looks like in a real world situation. Whether I'm creating a blog post or outlining a podcast episode or scripting out some talking points for a YouTube video, I pretty much always follow this structure from the title and the headline, for the introduction, the body copy, and the conclusion. Now, if it's a blog post, well, most of the text is already written and already formatted, so that part's pretty easy. But if it's a podcast, well, there's a number of free as well as paid online services that allow you to transcribe text from that podcast episode, which then gives you text. And the same thing goes with video. You can take that video and you can transcribe the text, so now you've got a video, you've got some text, and of course you can strip away the audio and you've got a podcast episode as well if you'd like. So using this video example, well, I can take that video and rip away the audio for the podcast and transcribe it into text for the blog, and I can then take all of those subparts and those subpoints and the main parts of the body, and I've now got different posts that I can create other content from, pretty much just by copy and pasting the content that's already there. What this looks like is taking those subpoints and turning them into emails or social media posts or possibly even shorter videos. So if our main piece of content is the pillar, well, these kind of subpoints, these 3 to 5 points that you talked about throughout your content, I call them posts, but we're not done yet. Because what I can then do is take these posts and, well, carve them up even further into what I call pieces. These would be even shorter social media posts or tweets or graphics or quote cards or pretty much anything else you can think of that's been extracted from the main content you created. And the beauty is it really doesn't matter what kind of pillar content you start with, whether it's text or podcasting or video through YouTube or whatever it is, this same concept can apply simply by extracting different points and then sharing them across different platforms. Now, you can, of course, do all of this manually, which is absolutely acceptable, and if you're just getting started, probably a great way to save a few bucks. But if you've got a few dollars to invest in your content marketing strategy, I've got a few tools that I use and recommend, so I'll make sure to list them out now, as well as link them up in the description below. The first of which is a software called MeetEdgar. Now, I love this one because not only is it a social media marketing tool that allows you to go out there and automate your posts and so on, but it also allows you to do it kind of by repurposing and recycling older posts. So you don't constantly need to go in there and upload new and fresh content. It can simply draw back from some of your previous posts and post them on a schedule that you've set ahead of time. ConvertKit is my email platform of choice, and it's the one that I use in my business as well as recommend to all of my clients. It's phenomenally easy to use, and if you've been following me for any length of time, then you know just how strongly I feel about email. In fact, we're going to talk about that more in just a minute. Next is VideoAsk. VideoAsk is a powerful tool because what it allows you to do is collect video testimonials and video responses that you can then repurpose into other forms of content. Canva is another very easy and very popular tool, free to use in most cases, and it's a good alternative if you don't want to go in there and start learning about Photoshop. Shutterstock is great if you need stock images and royalty-free, so you don't have to worry about copyright issues. And using any combination of those should be more than enough to help get you started. So with all that said, let me move on to the next piece of this whole content marketing strategy, which is multi-channel marketing. Now, before we dive into this one, first a little bit of a warning. You see, I've always been a fan and an advocate and maybe even a little bit obsessive about making sure that you're being very selective and very strategic about your channel selection when it comes to online and offline, but definitely social media. See, the reality is there's simply too many platforms and too many different networks, and new ones seem to be popping up almost all of the time. So if you try to be active and present and engage on all of them, well, you're really going to be able to do none of them well. It's like that perfect example. You know when you go to a business's website and you see a little Twitter link on there and you click on it and you realize that they haven't made a tweet since 2015? Yeah, that doesn't look good. You're much better off to be selective and to choose the platforms that you want to engage on and that you really make sure are in alignment with you and your business and your market. Long story short, you don't need to be everywhere, you don't need to do everything, but you do need to be active and present where your clients and where your customers are. Now here's the good news about that. If you've done a little bit of due diligence and some basic market research, which is absolutely fundamental to making all of this work, so I'll make sure to link up a resource at the end of this. Well, if you've done your homework, well then you've probably already identified where your target market is present and active, so you can focus there and make that your primary platform and really create your pillar content there first. Again, whether that's a blog or a podcast or on YouTube. But there's also very likely a chance for you to engage in some kind of a secondary platform, which could be Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitter or Pinterest or TikTok or whatever. Well, fortunately, you've just done some of the hard work in that previous step by using the content multiplier formula, by taking your primary platform and your pillar piece of content and splicing and dicing, carving it up. So now you've got little pieces of content and posts that you can share on other platforms that you may not want to prioritize as heavily. Also, this next part's hard for me to say because I'd love to be able to tell you that this is the single greatest platform and opportunity available to you right now, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever it is. But the reality is that I simply can't know without understanding your business and your market and where they're present and active online. Your results, your mileage may vary. It's going to be different and it's going to be incredibly dependent on your business and on your market. All that said, there are two content marketing strategies that continue to just dominate today and basically beat everything else. So let me share those with you now. The first of which is video marketing, and this really should come as no surprise. Not only is this a great opportunity to not just look at what I say, but also look at what I do and just how heavily invested I am in video marketing, as well as how I push all of my clients in this direction, but also the social media platforms themselves have basically come out and directly said, hey, we like video, and we want you to make more videos, and when you do, well, we're going to reward you with greater reach and more impressions and being able to put your content in front of more people. Not only that, but this video content, well, typically it has higher conversion rates. It allows you to build more trust and more rapport and more of a relationship than you can through just audio or definitely through just text. Don't get me wrong. I love text content and I love audio content, but when you compare the two, you simply can't beat video content in order to deliver a message. Next to being face-to-face and in person, it really is the next best thing. Now, when it comes to video marketing, especially today, one of the biggest areas of confusion and often debate is on short form versus long form video. Which one's better? Which one will reign supreme? Which one belongs to the future? Now, on one hand, you have all of the short form video advocates saying that the rise of TikTok and Instagram Reels and Instagram Stories and Snapchat and all of those other short form video platforms, not to mention YouTube Shorts, well, they've been making a rise. However, you also have to recognize the fact that many of these short form video platforms are increasing the length which they categorized as short form. Short form is becoming longer form or medium form. The point is, even the short form video platforms are like, yeah, maybe we should make it just a little bit longer. And this is because when it comes to growing a brand, building a business, you simply can't compete against longer form video. I mean, just think about it realistically here for a second. Which one do you think is going to build more trust, more authority, and more expertise with your market? A 15-second video or a 15-minute video? Yeah, I mean, it's not even close. And the statistics back all of this up, with more and more marketers using video marketing, more of them reporting good results from their video marketing, and the increase in video content on the internet at large. So, video, you should use it. But whether you use video marketing or not, and I highly suggest you do, well, this next strategy will work either way. Though seriously, you should still use video. And the next strategy I'm talking about, while not new, is proving just as effective today as it's ever been before, and that is email marketing. This one's hard for me to talk about because I'd love to be able to tell you that it's virtual reality or augmented reality or chatbots or SMS or some kind of brand new and shiny and fun thing. But no, I gotta talk about email. Fortunately, I actually don't mind. I love email marketing, not only because it's a fun and creative way to engage with your customers and clients and audience, but also, and most importantly, because it's incredibly effective. Now, the standard statistics when it comes to email marketing effectiveness are that it provides somewhere around a 3,800% ROI or a 4,400% ROI. Again, depends on the statistic, but either way, that's a really high number. And it basically doesn't matter what demographic, what segment of the market you're trying to target, they all use email. And most demographics actually prefer email over other forms of communication. So for you as a brand, as a business owner, as a creator, well, it's just an incredibly important and powerful tool for you still to be leveraging. Not only that, but like I've said before, it's hard for me to think of a single company, a single client that I've worked with over the last 10 years where we haven't added or optimized an email marketing strategy and it hasn't proven to be incredibly profitable, often very quickly. Of course, the single most important element to making all of your content marketing work and make it that much more effective is really making sure that you have a thorough and deep understanding of your target market and of the audience that you're creating this content for in the first place. And that means market research. Fortunately, I've got you covered, and that's why the very next thing you're going to want to do is check out the video I've got linked up right here on how to do market research fast and easy. So make sure to check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video. Because by better understanding your customer, it means that you're better able to position your business or your offer as the main, the only, the core solution to their problems, making your business